Do you believe it? Some cats might really wait for a person. Not for a day, not for a month, but for 10 years. One winter, a cat named Ash came to this home for the first time. Back then, she was only a few months old, small, timid, always hiding under the couch, only her eyes peeking out. In this home lived an old man named Uncle Charlie. His daughter Sarah lived in another city and rarely visited. His wife had passed away years before. Every morning he ate breakfast alone, read the newspaper alone, sat by the window alone, watching people pass on the street. Until Ash appeared. That night, Uncle Charlie opened a can of cat food and sat down on the floor. He didn't grab her. He didn't pull her out. He just said quietly, "Don't be afraid. If you want to stay, then stay." Ash watched him for a long time from under the couch. Then, slowly, she walked out. That was the beginning of their story. From then on, Ash spent every day with Uncle Charlie. In the mornings, she lay on the windowsill sunbathing. Uncle Charlie sat beside her, drinking tea. In the afternoons, Uncle Charlie watched TV. Ash curled up asleep at his feet. At night, before turning off the light, Uncle Charlie would gently pat her head, then say, "Good night." Ash couldn't speak. She would just answer softly, "Meow." Back then, Uncle Charlie always felt the days were long. He never imagined that one day he would suddenly be gone. One autumn morning, 8 years later, Uncle Charlie went out to buy groceries as usual. Before leaving, he told Ash, "Be good and wait at home. I'll be back soon." He left the door only half-latched. Ash sat on the old wicker chair by the door, her tail sweeping the floor. But that day, Uncle Charlie didn't come back. The neighbors later learned that Uncle Charlie had collapsed suddenly at the market downstairs. At the hospital, doctors found he'd had a severe stroke. He survived, but his body no longer obeyed him. He couldn't speak in full sentences. He couldn't recognize familiar streets. Even standing up became a wish beyond reach. Sarah took him to a nursing home in another city, and once she did, it was 10 years before he came back. Sarah had actually tried to take Ash with them. She brought a carrier into the apartment, but Ash clung desperately to the windowsill, refusing to go in, struggling until she was covered in scratches, and in the end, Sarah had to let go. She herself was busy with work, and her rented apartment didn't allow pets. So all she could do was ask a neighbor to leave out food and water for Ash each day. She told herself that once her father's condition stabilized, maybe there would be another way. But the days went by, and Uncle Charlie's body never recovered enough to stand again. The waiting never came to an end, and so the apartment stayed empty. No one told Ash that her owner would be gone for a very, very long time. All she knew was the person who came home every day didn't come home today. The first day, Ash waited until night. The door didn't open. The second day, still nothing. The third day, still nothing. Later, neighbors began leaving food for her. Someone told her, "Stop waiting." But Ash didn't understand. Every night, she still walked to the door and sat there. Whenever she heard footsteps in the hallway, she lifted her head at once. Whenever voices came from outside the door, she ran toward it. Whenever the doorknob so much as rattled, she stood up. But every single time, when the door opened, it was never him. A year passed. Ash was still waiting. 2 years passed. She still sat by the door every evening. By the 5th year, she had aged a great deal. She no longer leapt onto the windowsill the way she used to. She no longer chased toys across the room. But every night, she still did the same thing. Sat by the door, waited. The neighbors slowly grew used to the sight. Someone would say, "Why is that cat still waiting?" and someone would say, "Cats don't remember that long." But no one knew exactly what Ash remembered. Maybe it was his voice, maybe it was his scent. Maybe it was simply a habit she'd learned. Every evening, that door would open, and that person would always come home. In the 10th year, she had grown very quiet. Most of every day, she spent curled up on the old wicker chair by the door. It was an evening after rain when a neighbor set down a bowl of water for her. Just as she turned to leave, she noticed something. Ash had stood up. She was staring at the stairwell, not meowing, just staring. A few seconds later, a slow, unfamiliar sound rose from the stairwell. Not footsteps, but the sound of wheels rolling across the floor. One turn, then another, coming closer. Ash's ears slowly rose. She stood in front of the door. Then the doorknob turned. Click. The door opened. Sitting in the wheelchair was Uncle Charlie. His hair had gone completely white. His face was thinner than she remembered. His speech had slowed, each word coming out with effort. Sarah was the one pushing the chair. Uncle Charlie looked at the gray and white cat on the wicker chair, and in his clouded eyes, a light suddenly rose. Ash. His voice trembled, barely recognizable. Ash froze where she stood, staring at him without moving. Then, in the next instant, as if she had found the strength of 10 years ago, she leapt down from the chair and stumbled to his side, pressing her head hard into his thin, weathered palm, letting out a broken sound she had held in for 10 years. Uncle Charlie's hands trembled as he stroked her fur again and again, fur no longer as soft as it once was. Tears slid down his wrinkled face and fell onto the top of her head. Very slowly, he said, "I'm sorry. I came back too late." Ash didn't answer. He simply curled her whole body into his arms, her tail wrapping tightly around his wrist, as if trading 10 years of waiting for this one embrace. That night, Uncle Charlie didn't return to the nursing home. Sarah brought him and Ash back to their home together. For the first time, Ash didn't sleep by the door. Instead, she jumped onto the bed and lay down at his feet. Outside, the rain hadn't stopped, but the room was very quiet. In the early hours, Uncle Charlie woke once. He saw Ash was still there, eyes open, watching him. He reached out a hand that still didn't quite obey him, and slowly stroked her head. Then, one word at a time, he said, "You don't have to wait anymore. I'm home." Ash closed her eyes and let out a soft, quiet purr. Later, the old wicker chair, its paint long worn away, was kept exactly where it had always stood. What Ash loved most was still that old blanket, because on it still lingered a scent she'd known for 10 years. Every morning, she still climbed onto the windowsill to sit with Uncle Charlie in the sunlight. Only this time, she never again had to face that closed door alone. 10 years for a cat. That is a very long time, but maybe she was never really waiting for 10 years. She was only waiting until evening, each day, telling herself, maybe today he'll come home. Day after day, year after year, until the day the door truly opened, and standing behind it was still the person she remembered. We always assume cats don't understand parting, don't understand missing someone, don't understand waiting. But maybe they simply can't express it in human words. They don't ask, "Why did you leave?" They don't say, "I missed you." They just sit there, keeping watch over a door, keeping watch over a spot, keeping watch over the person who once made them feel safe. So, if your cat is waiting for you to come home right now, don't assume it's only because she wants to be fed. Maybe, to her, the sound of you coming home is the most important moment of her entire day. Sometimes we think we've adopted a cat. In truth, a small life chose to stay by our side. And the most precious thing was never how many years she spent with you. It's that after all those years, when you finally turn back, she's still there, waiting for you, because in her world, you never really left.